this video, what we're going to do is raise a little awareness about a disease that Stephanie was diagnosed with about 7-8 years ago when she was 20. We thought it's really important to raise awareness because hemophilia and the disease that she has is called von Willebrand. There just isn't a lot of education on it, especially in the first responder field and even ERs. So we thought we'd tell her story, tell you a little bit about the disease, and go from there.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say that if you're watching this, it's going to be a little graphic. We're going to go into details.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like guys, you might want to turn it off now.
Because I figure I have to tell my whole story to get kind of the point across. So, first, so my periods have always been pretty bad, like my whole life. I just thought it was normal. I was like, I know how to control it. I have been controlling it for, what, seven years? So before this had happened. So I just thought it was normal. So they were always really heavy. I mean, I would bleed for 2 weeks and then not have a period, and then my period would be back for another week and a half. I just thought it was normal. I didn't know. I mean, I knew, but I just thought that was how my body was, so I just took care of it. Like 2 days before my whole incident happened, me and my best friend at the time, we were going to a concert, and the night before the concert, we were sitting in my bedroom and we were getting all of our coins together to we were going to the store to go to Coinstar and get money for our trip and all that stuff. Anyway, and when we were sitting there, I noticed I started bleeding, and I was like, oh great, perfect timing, so I can go to this concert that's I think it was in Columbus. And I was like, great, so I was gonna have to control that. So what I would do, and this is gross, I would just, because I knew how bad it would be, I just took just toilet paper and I would wrap it up and just put it in my underwear. And that's what I always did. So then the next day.
What do you mean? You didn't use a pad?
Well, I did. I used the pad.
Okay.
I don't know if I used tampons yet. I forget. I don't think I used tampons yet. I used the pad and then I used toilet paper because that's the only thing that would even absorb it. It actually would even do that.
So you used a pad and toilet paper?
Yeah. Like when I say like a wad, I mean like an insane amount. But so then,
which is a key point to what we'll get to.
Yeah.
When the incident happened.
Yeah. So then the next day I was feeling really bad. I felt like every time I would get up, I would feel like I was going to pass out. So the only thing that I was worried about at this point was my concert. So all day long I felt really sick. Every time I would go to the bathroom, I'd feel like I was going to pass out. I would go to the bathroom, run right back to my chair and sit down and lay down. So my sister, who's a nurse, came over and she took my vitals and she just said you might just be dehydrated, but if not, you might have to go to the hospital and get a blood transfusion because you're losing so much blood, but just kind of drink for now and then see how you feel in the morning. So needless to say, I missed my concert, which I was really upset about. But I kind of went to sleep, and the next morning, it's when it all hit the fan.
Went down.
So the next morning, all I remember is, and I don't know if you want to feed off of this or if you want to tell your story
first.
So
the next morning, she probably doesn't remember a lot.
I mean, I do, but I know that you had, I want to share my point of view and then hers too, because we were on, both.
Well, maybe the best thing to do is share it together. So you remember as far as...
So what I remember is early in the morning, I went to the bathroom, and all I could do, literally, I would get up, and I felt like I was going to pass out every single time. I mean, I would run to the bathroom, and I knew that if I passed out, I would be going to the hospital. So I was like, all right, I just got to go to the bathroom, fix myself, because I would stand up over, I had all my dirty clothes on the ground, and I would just stand up, and I know this is disgusting, so graphic content. I would stand up and just blood would just come out. It was not stopping. So I went to the bathroom and I ran right back to my room, and then
you probably don't remember much after that.
Well, and then I remember my sister came over and she...
See, so you don't even remember
Well, because Erin came over before Aunt Kim, didn't she?
No, that's what I mean. You don't remember that.
Yeah, because Erin brought me food to see if I was hungry. Or was that the day before?
That might have been the day before. Because what happened was, I knew how sick she was when it was on a Wednesday night. So I knew how sick she was Wednesday night. So Thursday morning, I was getting ready for work, and I have an autistic son. Steph has an autistic brother, and we had what I call an Evan morning. He wasn't cooperating, and it was just a busy morning. So by the time I got to work, I actually got halfway to work, and I realized I hadn't even checked on her because of the morning that I had had. So when I got to work, I tried to call her. She didn't answer. Tried to text her, no answer. Went on Facebook, because that was always a big indicator, because that's the first thing she would do in the morning. Hadn't been on Facebook. So I was thinking, this is odd. So I tried to call her a couple more times and just didn't get anything. So I called my sister, who lives right down the street, and I said, hey, told her kind of what was going on. Can you go up and check on Stephanie? So she went up and checked on Stephanie, but in the same thing, I called my daughter, who lives down the street, Stephanie's oldest sister, and said the same thing to her. Hey, can you go over? Because, if things are going to get bad, she probably will need you. So my sister got over there first, and she went upstairs. Stephanie was sleeping, but said she was still feeling real dizzy, real lightheaded, and had to go to the bathroom. So my sister told her, go to the bathroom, I'm going to get you a drink. Yeah. So my sister went downstairs to get the drink. Now, we lived in a house that had like a balcony. So when you came up the steps, you were coming up the steps, and then the balcony was here. So when you got halfway up, you could see on the balcony. Yeah. So my sister called me and said, I'm here. She doesn't feel good. She's going to the bathroom. I'm getting her a drink. So halfway up the steps, she's like, oh my gosh, Stephanie's passed out on the balcony. And I'm like, I'm on my way home.
That was the second time I passed out. The first time, I didn't want anybody to know about because I was like terrified of going to the hospital. So what happened was I went to the bathroom, I was on the toilet, and I passed out on the toilet, hit my head on the wall.
And we found out all that later.
And then I guess I just was passed out for just like a second, because I got back up and I was like, oh my gosh, if they see me like this, I'm going to the hospital. Like, I was going to the hospital anyway because I was so sick. But I was like, let me just run back to my bed. Well, as I was running back to my bedroom, that's when I passed out in the hallway. And that's when me and him found me.
Right. So then from there, my brother is a firefighter, and I was hoping he was at the firehouse. So I called him to tell him what was going on, and he happened to be at the firehouse. So he put everything in motion for me. He was like, you just get home, I'll take care of everything else. So he put the call in, to get the ambulance there and everything. So then, of course, my oldest daughter then was there. So I get home, ambulance, two fire trucks, and the whole bit. So long story short on that whole scenario is, of course, she got transported to University Hospital. Yeah. But so anyway, so then we transported her to University Hospital. She ended up.
I have to stop here for a second. Because my uncle, he was so, like, they let him sit in the back with me. Like, he sat in the back with me, and the whole time he held my hand the whole time to the hospital. And like, he did not let go of my hand. And like, that was really comforting for me, obviously, because he's my uncle. And it wasn't just some stranger. And he literally sat there with me the whole time and just held my hand. So,
yeah. I rely on my brother a lot when in these situations. So anyway, we get to university, and they tell us, when we get up there, my ex-husband, her dad, and my husband were all up there. And they made us stay in the waiting room, and they said we just have to figure out what's going on before anybody can come back. So, of course, we didn't like that, but we knew it was serious and let them do what they needed to do. So within like 5 minutes of telling us that, because they told us it would be about a half an hour. So within 5 minutes of telling us that, they yell out and say, the mother of Stephanie Ball, come to the front. So, of course, we were like, oh my God, something happened. But what happened was she was literally on the verge of shock, and they needed questions answered. So I went back, and they just needed a bunch of questions answered. So they had her in the trauma unit, and as far as that, I can tell you, I've never been treated so well in all of our lives. Like, they were just so attentive to her. They were on top of things, they were moving quick. It was obvious, they kept telling me, like, she's moments from shock. We've got to do this, we've got to do that. So they had to figure out what was going on. I mean, obviously, she was bleeding out is basically what it came down to. But, So once they got the IV started and the blood drawn, they quickly found out that like her hemoglobin was like 6.
Yeah, it was like depleted.
It was just depleted. Normal for a menstruating woman is like 13 to 15.
Yeah.
And so from that, they were like, they were just moving on. So what she ended up having to have done is she had to have blood transfusions, of course, and then they had to figure things out. So that was like 9 o'clock in the morning when we got there, and it took until about 2 to get her from critical to stable. And it was after like the 3rd bag of transfusion.
Yeah, because I had.
So what happened during it, she started going back to her point of passing out in the hospital. She was like a sheet. Like she was just white. There was no color. She had no lips, nothing. I've never seen anything like it. So when they got to like the 2nd bag of blood, her color started coming back a little bit. And the first thing that happened was a spot right here. And they asked us if she had a birthmark. And we were like, not that we know of, there's no. And they were like, because the first color that's coming back on her face is a spot here. And here it was a bruise. It ended up being a bruise where she fell and hit her head in the bathroom. But anyway, so once they got her stabilized, they put her in a room and continued the transfusions. And then I would say by like 4 or 5 that night, she was able to sit up and talk and
Yeah, I was up. I was walking around.
yeah, I mean she was. So I mean they did a great job, but it was a very scary day.
Started me on birth control. That was their.
Yeah, so it was a very scary day and still no answers. I mean, yes, she had this bleed out, but why did she have this bleed out? So they first sent us to.
They said it was a freak accident.
They did kind of say that they thought it was just a freak accident during a menstrual cycle, but they didn't let it go. They sent us to their OBGYN team, and are they the ones that put you on the birth control? You only saw them once.
They put me on the birth control the first day I was there.
Oh, that is true.
I was taking the birth control as I was getting the blood transfusion.
So we went to see their OBGYN team once, and they were good. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like there was anything wrong with them. They were really good, and they were very gentle with her, but we felt more comfortable taking her where we knew. So we took her to, our family gynecologist, and who I credit with saving her life. Because we also were told to go to our family doctor, who his form of treatment was going to be iron, which isn't wrong. I mean, because she was severely anemic. So iron wasn't wrong, but it was the time he was going to take to run her on the iron that I wasn't happy with. Because I just felt like there was more to it than just a freak accident. So we took her to my gynecologist office, and she saw Dr. Sabin, who I credit for saving her life, because she said, no, this is no freak accident. We've got to figure things out. And because she was reading the blood work. She was looking at all the reports and stuff from the hospital. And I think the reason that we want to tell this whole story is in case you're living with a similar thing and people are telling you it's just normal, maybe it isn't. Don't settle for it's normal.
Yeah, can't get her to
and also don't listen to this and think, oh my gosh, I have von Willebrand's, because the reason von Willebrand's, and we'll get into this, is very difficult to diagnose is because there are so many other illnesses, especially for women, that dictate the same symptoms. So just because you're going to have the same symptoms that she's had and the similar situation doesn't mean that you automatically have it. Our point is, don't settle for it's a freak accident, it's normal. As a matter of fact, my daughter-in-law just had similar menstrual cycles. I'm not going to get into her personal business because she didn't give me permission. But the point is, I could say, wow, maybe you have von Willebrand's because she has very similar symptoms, but in fact she has something different. So that's what I'm saying. There are many different things that can dictate something different. But more importantly, the story is, don't settle for it's a freak accident or heavy menstrual cycles are normal, and don't settle for it. Like, ask questions, dig deeper, and find out what's going on, because you'll live a miserable life that you don't have to live, because there are simple treatments for a lot of the other illnesses that you could have. or conditions. It's not even illnesses, it's conditions that women easily could have and easily treat it. So for us, Dr. Sabin took one look at her blood work and said, no, this is not normal, and no, we're not going to settle for iron for 3 months. We're going to figure this out. So she sent us to the wonderful Dr. McCullough, who is a hematologist.
Well, didn't Jennifer refer?
I asked her. So then I kind of asked around, is this a good doctor? And of course we found out that she's a great hematologist. So what we found out, they were ruling things out because the blood work was all over the place. So they were like, when they took one look at it, they were like, what the hell?
They thought I had.
I mean, it could have been
cancer.
I mean,
leukemia,
so when we get to Dr. McCullough's office and we see her, and she's wonderful. So if you need a hematologist, she's wonderful and can treat most conditions. And the reason why I credit her big time for what she did is because she didn't, what's the word? She was modest. She didn't, she didn't treat something she didn't feel comfortable treating in the end.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What happened was I went to Dr. McCullough and they did blood work. They did like a finger prick, everything like that. And she said, you are severely anemic. She actually did say, I think iron would help you. She said, but I think what you need is an infusion of iron. She said, so I want you to come back, your next appointment, let's do like an infusion of iron. It'll take like, an hour and a half or something, and it's through an IV, obviously. And I obviously was freaking out about that. But anyway, so then we went to her that day to get that infusion. And she said, I was looking at your test from last time, and I actually think that you might have what's called von Willebrand's disease. And so me and my mom were like, what does that even mean? We don't even know what that is. So she actually gave us like a printout of like what it was, what are the symptoms, and this and that. She said, so I'm going to refer you to a doctor at UC and go see him, and he can kind of do the test that he needs to do to diagnose it. She said, but I'm pretty sure this, from what, the tests that we've done and the symptoms that you have, this is probably what you have. So.
Right. I mean, she was very good about, she said, I
awesome.
could probably treat you for this, but why would I when we have, the fabulous Dr. Palajczak at our disposal? Like, people come from all over to see him that have, these bleeding disorders. So she was really, great as far as I'm concerned. I thought that was a pretty fabulous move for, a hematologist to refer to another hematologist who she knew was going to be able to be a better resource for us. So then we went to Dr. Palajczak, University Hospital.
And so
this took an entire year.
Yeah, it took a year.
It took a year to get a final diagnosis and a treatment plan.
Every time the blood work would come back, he would always say, he didn't believe what he was seeing, I guess. I don't know. But
he didn't believe what he was seeing because Stephanie has von Willebrand, and we'll go over what that means. But she also has factor 7 deficiency, which the two together, he said, he has no patients that have the two together. Yeah. It's not like it's a specific rare disease or anything like that. It's just rare to see the two together.
And then I have, was it thalassemia? What is it?
Yeah, I don't know what that's called, but she has something else that is a blood condition.
And it's typically found in people who are Italian, which I'm Italian.
It's an Italian hereditary thing.
Another hereditary thing, but which I thought that was kind of cool.
Because she does have
thalassemia.
Italian.
That's what it's called. Thalassemia?
I don't know. He threw out so many names. I mean, every time the blood work came back, she had to go to multiple places to even get the blood work done. We had the children's, we went to different labs, and they sent the blood work to different labs all over the country because every time it came back, he had these huge charts every time we would go to see him, and he would show us what each thing meant and then he would narrow it down to, just narrow it down. It's an extremely hard condition to diagnose because, especially with all the other things that were coming back in her blood. But he was excellent.
Yeah. And my cousin Katie, who is a nurse, when she was in school, she did a report, I think on von Willebrand's, because I had it, and she had to do a report on something. So she told me, she texted me, and she said, my professor said that with all of those things that you have, he said that he doesn't know how you even get up in the morning. So I was like, well, I don't know if it's just because I don't have it as bad as it could be, or if it's because it's normal to me. I don't know, but that was kind of cool.
She has purple lips all the time. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, once she was diagnosed, and it took not only blood work, but she had to do like bleeding times, which means they would poke her and see and time how long it took for her to stop bleeding.
Yeah, like a 5-hour
Yeah, that
test.
gave them ideas of how severe her clotting is. So, that's a thing, bleeding times. So once they found out everything, they were able to put her on medication. Birth control was a big factor with that.
Yeah.
And then she takes liquid iron every day to help with her anemia, because part of this disorder is it's hard for them to retain iron, and it's extremely difficult for them to retain iron storage. Like for normal people, we have iron storage, and then we have iron, that we can run on and, our bodies work off of. Somebody doesn't have that. And what makes it even worse for a female is every month, even though you get your iron stored up, now you have a menstrual cycle, and there it goes. So iron is a big contributing factor for her anemia and her, the way she feels every day. And then birth control keeps her from bleeding.
Yeah.
And then another medication that she takes during her menstrual cycles is called Stimate, and it's a nasal spray, and that helps. It's a clotting factor that she puts into her body because she doesn't have it. And that helps her menstrual cycles. So you can tell them about.
So since they put me on the birth control and then the Stimate, my periods ever since, I would say for the last couple years, they're definitely better than they were before. And the Stimate I carry with me everywhere just in case. They also said it would be, I would have to use it in case I get into like a car accident, just to hold me over until I get to the hospital.
To get an infusion.
Any like dental work that I have to have done, if it's more than just like a filling, I have to get an infusion before I go, like an actual infusion. It's called Humate P from the hospital, and
So how do you feel like overall, like, excuse our dog.
look it up.
So how do you feel, like, honestly, for anyone who might be suffering with it, to understand? Like somebody may be watching this that actually suffers from von Willebrand's that can relate to how you feel.
So, there are certain, like every day I feel tired. I'm always just tired, like always. But there are some days where I'm just like, I just don't feel like doing anything. And like there was something on like a von Willebrand like fact sheet, and it was like all these quotes from like different like people that have von Willebrand. And it was like one that really hit me was it said something like if I don't come to a family party, or if I miss work, or if I don't come to if I don't go somewhere that I said that I would be at or whatever, just know that it's not that I feel sick. I'm just not up to it, because you literally are just so tired, and you kind of get in that funk where you're just like, I just don't want to be around people. I'm tired. It's just something that just happens. You just don't feel like doing anything. You get in, and I have those days. I don't have them often, but I do have them. But there's just some days where, there was, I think, like one day at work recently where I just was like, I just can't do it today. I'm so tired. I was bleeding worse than I have in a few years. So, and some people will be like, well, that's just a period. Like, why would you take off work for a period? Well, you don't understand until you actually have something where you literally can't sit there for less than an hour without your tampon filling up and then bleeding through your pants. Like, who wants to sit through an 8-hour work shift with that? Like, you'll be going to the bathroom every 10 seconds. And plus, if your pants are, it's going through your pants, that's not, like, you just don't want to go through that. So, you just have to kind of know that I don't know, you just kind of have to understand it before you can kind of judge it, I guess. But
And I think that's kind of where I get kind of defensive for Stephanie is, you know, people are always like, well, she doesn't ever want to do anything. And every time I do, I call her and da-da-da-da-da. And you know what, some days it's all Stephanie can do is go to work and come home. So they tell her, you know, try to work out. She's big time into, you know, getting back on a workout routine and stuff because strengthening her muscles and keeping her body strengthened, that helps as well. So, you know, people will look at her and be like, oh my gosh, what are you even going to the gym for? Why are you even trying? Well, she's trying because she has a health condition that helps, you know, by doing that, by strengthening her muscles and by doing something that she wants to do that's positive, that helps her every day have something to get up and strive for.
And I can control it. It's something that I can control and do that I like to do. It's kind of like a...
I mean, she posts on Facebook every day what she's going to do. Today are my arms, today are my abs. Now her brother teases her relentlessly, but that's her brother, you know, but other people are probably looking at it like, oh my gosh, we have to see this again. But that is Stephanie's way of getting through the day of exhaustion.
And like
looking forward to something.
Yeah. And the other thing is I, you know, back when this happened, and I also posted a video about my jaw surgery that I had, you know, back when we didn't really have, like, YouTube and all that really wasn't that popular, I guess. Especially when I had my jaw surgery like that. I don't think YouTube was even a thing. But I would just like to post things and share things with people just in case I can inspire one person because, you know, I like kind of look up, you know, people with von Willebrand on YouTube sometimes, but like, I don't know, it's just something to post and have there just to inspire at least one person.
It's like anything else. Like whenever you have something that not everybody has, you know, then you find somebody who has it also. It's like they become like your family. Like, oh my gosh, she gets it. Like she understands. So that's what this video is all about. Education for anybody else that suffers with it. For anybody that doesn't understand, you know, why Stephanie does certain things. Maybe educating you on why that happens or doesn't happen. You know, so it's a hard disease to live with. It's a hard condition to live with. And I will tell you that she lives with it like a champ because she never complains about it, ever. Like I can look at her like right now and I can tell by her lips that she's probably miserable today. But you're never going to know that. She's never, like even though she said, like if I don't come to an outing, you know, blah, you would never know that that's why. Okay, so I know Stephanie's my daughter, and of course I'm her biggest fan, but in my opinion, I think she handles this illness like a champ. But to give you a little idea of what von Willebrand's is all about, this is the educational piece. That was her story.
We've lost them and a lot of cool people.
Right. So through this University Hospital, Dr. Plaschek's office, they're just fabulous. And we have met an abundance of people that are just helpful and wonderful. Tri-state bleeding disorder, wonderful resource. You know, if you ever want something to donate to that's a worthy cause, that's tri-state bleeding disorder. What are their initials? Just look it up, tri-state bleeding disorder, it'll come up. Anyway, so they're a great resource. We've gone on retreats.
Yeah, really awesome retreats.
We've done they do Search for the Holy Grail every year to raise funds for the tri-state bleeding disorder community, and we haven't done that in a while. We need to do that.
I don't think they do anymore.
Are you sure? I think they do. We'll find out. So anyway, so we've done some really great things, and I go to all of her appointments with her because there's always, you always want 2 sets of ears. But so the educational piece of this is, what is von Willebrand's? I'm going to need my glasses for this one. So basically there are 3 main types. There's type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 2 has several subtypes. So type 2 is type 2A, type 2B, type 2M, type 2N. So type 2, not only is it just type 2, but there's several subcategories of it. And then there's type 3. So Stephanie was diagnosed with the most common, which is type 1. However, type 1 is the most difficult to diagnose, and like I said before, that's because so many other, especially female conditions, dictate the same things or mimic the same condition. So basically what von Willebrand means is there is not enough von Willebrand protein in the bloodstream. And what von Willebrand does is it helps to bind factor VIII as well as proteins in the blood. They bind, and that's what causes a clot. So with not enough von Willebrand factor, there's not enough factor VIII, so you don't clot. Now in type 1, which is what Stephanie has, her clotting factor is slower. It's not that it's non-existent, it's just slower. Slow enough that it can be deadly in a big enough bleed.
Right.
But it's slow.
So to give you an example, so when I did my bleeding time test, they had me on my birth control for a week and then off of it for a week. On my birth control, it took me 4 minutes to clot. Off of my birth control, it took me 8 minutes. So 8 minutes in a car accident with a big enough injury, you can just do the math. So then obviously when you get to type 2 and type 3, it gets a little bit different. Not only more serious, but a little bit different. Type 2 is real complex. And type 3 just means that there is a lot less, if non-existent, von Willebrand in the bloodstream. I have type 1.
That's what I said. So you have type 1. So basically what it results in, we've already said, low iron to no iron storage, low to no iron levels, anemia, and of course the most dangerous is the inability to clot during bleeding. There's also fears of muscle bleeding, joint bleeding, and like she said, bleeding out during even some minor dental procedures. So Stephanie had to have some dental procedures done that required a mandibular block, which is the numbing of your lower jaw. So anytime you have any kind of filling or any kind of dental work done on your lower jaw, that's called a mandibular block. She has to be infused just to get that mandibular block because of the possible tissue bleed. So infused means we have to go to University Hospital, they start an IV. So that's kind of what she lives with, those types of things. Not to mention the anemia every day. More important to me on the education of any bleeding disorder, whether it be hemophilia, whether it be von Willebrand's, no matter what it is, I feel that there is not enough, and so does the whole bleeding community, that there is not enough education for these types of bleeding disorders or any type of bleeding disorder in first responders and even in emergency rooms. Like, we're told that she has to go to a hemophilia center, which is University Hospital here in Cincinnati. So basically we have to find out where the hemophilia centers are everywhere she goes.
Yeah.
Because that's where she has to be treated because they're the only ones that understand it.
Yeah. At one of our retreats, they gave us, when you go to those retreats, it's like they give you so much information. They gave us like a whole book of like all the hemophilia treatment centers of like around the world.
We went to an emergency room other than University Hospital. I won't mention which one because I feel like all of them would be the same way and I just don't want anybody to be like, well, of course they acted like that. They just don't know. So Stephanie had to have something taken off of her face. And I told them, do you think she needs to be infused? Because I feel like your face bleeds a lot. And they were like, well, what does she have? So I told them, they had no idea.
I forgot about that.
They had absolutely no idea how they would even treat it, what we were even talking about, and it is one of our major hospitals here in the tri-state area. So when I told Dr. Ploshchek about that, I kind of got yelled at because he said, don't you ever take her anywhere but here. But that's scary though. I mean, it's a scary situation because what if she's in a car accident? First responders, they have no idea what to do. Even with her bracelet and her information, they have no means to treat her. And it isn't their fault. Like, you can't blame the first responders because they're only educated and given so much, so they can only do so much. So it's not their fault. The fault lies in the lack of education and the fact that they don't carry the medication that could easily be administered to control bleeding while transporting. So what really irritates me more than anything, and I don't feel like any health issue is any more important than the other, I feel they are all important. So it's important not only to carry things for diabetics, carry things, for other patients who could be having, an emergency situation that you can turn around quickly. It's important to also have it, for bleeding patients. It burns my ass to know that, they carry an abundance of Narcan, to help out an addict who is trying to, did something to themselves. I'm not saying that I don't agree with that. I'm not saying that, so I don't want to get all, everybody get all up in arms that I feel like they should let them die. I'm not saying that. If you carry things like that, if you carry things for diabetics, if you carry things for any other health issue, you should carry something for bleeders. It's scary to think that if she's in a car accident and they have no idea what to do, they know to put compression, they know, to do certain things, but they could be bleeding in tissues that they don't even know are bleeding. And a simple infusion or a simple IV or even a simple nasal spray of stomate for her could make all the difference in life and death. And I just feel like this video, along with a lot of, they go up to Washington every year, trying to get the educational piece put into the trainings for, firefighters and for medics and for whoever. Like I said, it's not their fault. It's not the first responders' fault because they're not trained, to do this. So that's where we've got to make a difference in getting the training piece put in.
Aaron's calling.
I know, but what's going on?
And we're actually told at those retreats or like the FAM in Ohio, they tell us like you have to be your own advocate because most doctors don't know what it is or how to treat it. So, obviously we're told that, so.
Most important piece that I noticed this one doesn't do anymore, and Dr. Polaschek is all about it. Wear your medical bracelet.
I know.
Wear your medical bracelet. Always, they've got medical cards. You're supposed to put it in your wallet. Wear your medical bracelet. But if they don't know where to find it, if you don't have a medical bracelet on. Medical bracelet basically tells first responders there's something going on. This is what's wrong, and look for that card.
It's got like all the information in it.
So in the same breath, we need to be more educated. You also have to be your own advocate and help the first responders out by wearing your medical bracelets for any disorder that you have, anything, but mostly important for bleeding. So do you have anything else?
So they have this thing, I already mentioned it, it's called FAM Ohio, and we actually, at one of the events, Ryan White's mom was there, and she was a speaker, and she was awesome.
Did anyone, if you don't know who Ryan White is, if you're over the age of because you probably didn't know who he was either.
I did not know who he was until that, and now I read his book, I think twice. I watched they have a little movie on Netflix, and I'm actually friends with his mom on Facebook, which is really cool.
So if you don't know who Ryan White is and you have a bleeding disorder, really look him up because he is a great inspiration. His mom was great. She was a great speaker, but his story is a great story. Especially it's a great story for anyone, but it's a great story if you have a bleeding disorder.
And his, which is really cool. My boyfriend and I went to Indianapolis a few years ago, and at the Children's Museum, they actually have, because he's from Indiana, his whole bedroom set is in a little, its own little display.
Yeah.
It's literally his whole bedroom.
His bedroom's displayed as it was when he died.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So anyway, I don't have anything else to you other than if you're a bleeder, especially if you have heavy menstrual cycles, don't settle for it's normal. And the other thing to remember is this, I didn't know this until her situation. Clots are a measurement of blood. So if you say all I do is clot is a measurement of blood if you didn't know that. So if you have a heavy cycle as well as a lot of clotting, that means you have a heavy cycle. If you bleed and you fill more than a pad or a tampon an hour, think about that. That's kind of what they judge too. You probably get asked, how many tampons or pads do you fill in an hour? If you are filling them and changing them within an hour, that's a heavy period. Now, I'm not here to tell you everybody that has a heavy menstrual cycle has a problem. But I'm here to tell you that if you do it and you have done it for years and you are miserably tired all the time, make somebody take some blood work and figure things out, because you shouldn't have to live like that.
I don't know if I already said it, but it's the most common bleeding disorder, right? You said that. It's also the most undiagnosed, though, because people just think it's...
Type 1 is the most common.
It's hard to diagnose.
Von Willebrand. And you're right. It's the most misdiagnosed, and that's what we said. It's the hardest one to diagnose because there's other conditions that, or people just ignore it, thinking that, well, my mom had a heavy cycle, my grandmother had a heavy cycle, so I'm going to have a heavy cycle. No,
And that's
not how it
we
works.
don't- Like, as far as we know, we don't have any history of von Willebrand, but...
Yeah. So, hope this was helpful to someone. Hopefully this educated a couple of people or a lot of people, or if it touched one person, that's all that matters. We don't want you running, to your doctor freaking out because you have a heavy cycle. But I mean, if you do suffer from it and you have for years and you've blamed, your mom's history, your grandmother's history, and you're just miserable, definitely something to look into.
I get a Dr. Rada Kirshner, and she's really awesome.
So anyway, she's up there though, right?
What?
Rada Kirshner.
Up where?
Oh, you mean a doctor
doctor.
at University Hospital? Dr. Pelajczyk is retiring.
Yeah.
So at first we were freaking out a little bit about that, but now she sees, what's her name because I can't pronounce it,
Dr. Rada Kirshner.
at University Hospital. She's a hematologist. She's super great though. We love her.
She's straight to the point. Like, she does not sugarcoat anything. Like, I will try to sugarcoat why I don't take my iron. And she's like, anyway, you just need to take it.
She doesn't put up with anything. She comes in, she looks right at her lips, fingernails, and tongue.
Yeah, the first time I saw her, she was like, I'm not even going to torture you with getting your blood drawn today. She said, because I can just tell by looking at you that you have no iron in your system. Well, little to none. And she was like, so...
Yeah, she was impressive. She took one look at her fingernails, told her to stick out her tongue. Tongue and lips and gums gray, fingernails flat. And we know Stephanie's struggling.
But you know what? I get through it. I don't like to talk about it that much because I just I don't want to be that person to be like, well, I have this, and feel sorry for me because I don't feel.
So I'll tell you this: we were up at one of the FAM Ohio's, and they always try to match you with your disease. I don't want to say disease, but that's what it is. I mean, it's a disorder.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they said, you need to go over and talk to so-and-so because she also has von Willebrand. So Stephanie being this, I don't really like to talk about it. I don't want it to define me. It was FAM Ohio.
Yeah, that one girl.
So we walk over to her, and Stephanie's like, my name's Stephanie, da da da. And she was like, what level are you? And Stephanie was like 1, and she was like, I'm 3, and walked away.
Okay.
I'm like, do bleeding disorders also have a click? Like, I don't get it. What does that mean?
Yeah, she wasn't the nicest person.
Yeah, it was like, well, you're not 3, so go.
But we have, like I said, we have met a lot of nice people and awesome people.
She was the only one that was negative.
Yeah.
Everyone else is great.
The two main people that I really like. Well, I mean, I like everybody, but actually, still keep in contact with me are Lisa Ratterman and Raina.
Do you still talk to Raina?
I haven't in a while, but she was always she took us out to dinner and was talking to us about her what her company could do to help me out and everything. So she was really nice. And I actually saw her at FAM Ohio when me and Rowdy went, and that was 3 years ago. But she stopped me and she was like, "Hi, how are you?" Talking to me, asked how my mom was doing. And
the other thing is University Hospital, when you're in with them, if you have a child that you think might have something, Children's Hospital is where to start. But if you're an adult, the University Hospital has so many resources. Like Stephanie's stomate that she needs during her menstrual cycle, $710 is the cheapest she can find. So they have resources, and they have, I guess they consider them to be social workers that can help find ways to afford your medication, find ways to afford, what you need to survive, basically. So, because that stomate is $710. I mean, who can afford that? And
this big.
It's a nasal spray. I mean, but it's a life-saving nasal spray, but that's ridiculous, and it goes back to why do we have free some medications, but it costs you $710 to have your stomate that's life-saving, and it costs me $300 to have my EpiPen. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So we got to get a grip on all that, but that's for another day. So anyway, just thought that this could touch someone. And if you're suffering from or having the same symptoms or similar symptoms, just talk to your doctor, talk to your OBGYN, talk to someone. Don't just slough it off as, my mom had heavy menstrual cycles, so did my grandmother, so I'm going to live
Because we
miserably.
don't know, they could have it, and they don't know.
And sometimes it's as simple as being put on the correct birth control. And even if you don't need birth control, it's the correct level of estrogen, hormone based. Sometimes it's the lowest, because if you don't need birth control, they can put you on a low dose of something.
It's the lowest they make her in there.
But it's how great would it be for a simple pill a day to make you feel better?
Yeah, because you don't want to go through what I had to go through.
So anyway, hope this helped someone. Thanks for joining us.